Have you ever wondered what would have happened if all of the Kazukis were reborn with their memories? Would they become good? Would they still choose to become demons? And most importantly, how did they change the entire storyline? Now, for this timeline to actually work, we're only going to be talking about the relevant Kazuki members with actual backstories. So yeah, demons like the Lower Moon's Muzan wiped out like a vacuum cleaner won't be covered in this timeline. With that out of the way, let's take a moment to break down just how different each demon's backstory would be. The first demon to be reborn with his memories would be none other than the late Upper Moon one, Michikatsu, aka Kokoshibo. Unlike in his past life, where he spent all of his years drowning in jealousy toward his younger brother, Yoriichi, this time around, he wouldn't. He would spend most of his childhood trying to build a strong, unbreakable bond with his brother, making sure their father's bitterness never comes between them. And because of the good relationship they would have in this timeline, Yoriichi would do something he never did before. He would give Michikatsu one of his Hanafuda earrings before leaving their household, a small gesture showing just how close the two brothers would become in this version of the story. Their journey would still follow the same path as the original timeline, with both brothers eventually becoming demon slayers. Michikatsu would awaken his demon slayer mark and eventually create his own breathing style, moon breathing. But this time it wouldn't come from jealousy or insecurity. Instead, he would refine the technique with pride, pushing it to become even more powerful than the original version. And unlike the original timeline, where he accepted Muzan's offer to turn him into a demon and abandon his family in pursuit of power, this time he wouldn't even think of it. Here, he would stand beside Yoriichi and follow him on his mission to defeat Muzan. Muzan would still escape just like before, splitting his body into multiple pieces. But this time around, instead of fearing one demon slayer, he would now fear both brothers, forcing him even deeper into hiding. After that fight, as the two brothers return, the Demon Slayer Corps would still react the same way they did in the original history. They would blame the brothers for letting Muzan escape, ready to cast him out. Yoriichi would immediately take the blame for everything just so Michikatsu could remain in the Demon Slayer Corps. Thanks to him, Michikatsu would stay, continue fighting, and walk a path completely different from the one where he became a demon. From that point on, Michikatsu would spend his remaining years with his family, passing down and entrusting his moon-breathing technique to his lineage, a massive change from the original story. However, since he wasn't born with the Demon Slayer mark the same way Yoriichi was, he still wouldn't survive the curse. Just like any marked slayer, he would eventually pass away at the age of 25. Another key thing to mention is that because Michikatsu never became a demon in this timeline, that would mean Kaigaku wouldn't become one either, as Kokoshibo wouldn't turn him into one. Moving on, we have Douma. If Douma got reborn with all of his memories, you'd think he would become a good guy, but you would be wrong. You see, as a human, Douma was a complete sadist. He had a god complex and saw everyone as beneath him. Even when he got defeated, he didn't show any signs of remorse. Now, reborn with his memories, nothing would change much from his past life. The only difference is that he would be even more cruel. The story would continue just like the original. However, this time Douma would seek Muzan much earlier, requesting to be turned into a demon. And since he becomes a demon way earlier, he would grow far stronger, consuming humans, particularly women, at an astronomical rate and boosting all of his abilities to insane levels. And since Kokoshibo wouldn't exist in this timeline, Dauma's newfound strength would also allow him to claim the Upper Moon 1 title for himself, becoming the first demon moon ever created by Muzan. Next is Akaza. With all of his memories of his past life, Akaza would be much calmer, and he would try as hard as possible not to repeat the life of a criminal the same way he did before. He would spend his early years taking care of his sick father until he eventually passes away. This means he wouldn't get all of his tattoos because he never falls into the violent path that marked him originally. After that, he would set out to find Keizo, who would beg to train him, and of course, Keizo would take him in. But this time, thanks to Akaza's centuries of battle experience as a demon, he would be far more skilled than he ever was, mastering Keizo's Soryu-style technique with ease. And he would vow once again to protect both Keizo and his daughter, Koyuki, just like he failed to do in his past life. Naturally, Akaza and Koyuki would fall in love all over again, and for a moment, everything would seem perfect. It would look like Akaza can finally get the peaceful life he always wanted. But when the fateful day comes, the same day they were murdered in the original timeline, Akuza's memories would kick in. He would make up an excuse to keep Keizo and Koyuki away from the poisoned wells prepared by the rival dojo. Now, you would think this means Akaza gets to live happily ever after, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The rival dojo still hates Keizo, and when they realized their plan failed, they would come up with another way to murder them. And this time, since they couldn't poison them, they would take the more brutal approach, an ambush, an attack in the dead of night. This would make Akaza snap. Seeing that not only did he fail to save them in his past life, but that he has failed again, he would go on a killing spree, wiping out the entire rival dojo and anyone who dared stand in his way. This carnage would instantly catch Muzan's attention, and just like in the original timeline, Muzan would turn him into a demon. Since Douma is already the holder of the Upper Moon 1 title in this timeline, Akaza wouldn't stop growing. With his rage and experience, he would evolve his abilities at an insane pace and eventually rise to claim the Upper Moon 2 position. Now, with Akaza and Dauma's still choosing the path of becoming demons, they would keep all of their memories. This means Muzan would be able to access everything they know, and that's huge. With their past lives wide open to him, he could pull out every detail, every event, every bit of knowledge they've ever experienced. This would give Muzan a massive advantage, allowing him to make smarter moves, set better traps, and become far strategic in the battles to come. Moving on to demons like Hentengu, Gyoko, Nakami, the Hand Demon, and Enmu, considering how tragic and psychopathic their lives were as humans, they would still choose the path of becoming demons, so nothing would change. But what about Gyutaro and Daki? Would their stories be different? With all of their memories from their past lives, the bond between Gyutaro and Daki would become unbreakable. They would spend almost all of their time together, promising to always take care of each other. In this timeline, Daki wouldn't end up as an Oiran. Instead, the siblings would take legitimate jobs to make a living, trying to carve out a better life than they had before, working at Burger King. However, just like in their past lives, fate would remain cruel. Gyutaro and Daki would still be treated harshly, forced into situations beyond their control, and constantly reminded of the world's cruelty. Everything would continue as it did originally, until Douma finds them and turns them into demons. They would soon rise above the ranks, becoming upper moons, just like in the original timeline. Next is the former lower moon 5, Rui. As a human, Rui was frail and weak until Muzan turned him into a demon. Even as a demon, all he ever wanted was a family that he could love and protect. Now, being reborn with the memories of his past life, Rui would spend all of his time cherishing every moment with his parents. Even though his body would still be weak, he would accept his fate and find comfort in simply being with the people he loves. Everything would go fine, until that same fateful day when Muzan encounters him again. In the original timeline, Muzan offered Rui a choice of becoming a demon, which Rui accepted. But in this timeline, Rui wouldn't. He would refuse completely. However, Muzan wouldn't back down. He would immediately grab him and forcefully inject him with a massive dose of his blood. This would send Rui into a violent berserk state, causing him to lose control and kill his own parents with his bare hands. This would completely devastate him, and unlike the other demons who managed to retain their memories from their past lives, Rui would be the only exception. The trauma, the shock, and the overwhelming influence of Muzan's blood would completely wipe out everything he remembered, leaving him acting exactly like the Rui from the original timeline. Moving on, we have Kyogai. Now, I know Kyogai was kicked out of the Kazuki, but since we don't know much about some of the other members, Kyogai is all we've got. Okay, so Kyogai always wanted one thing, and that was for someone to finally acknowledge his talent as a writer. I feel that same, I get it. But in the original timeline, that desperate need for recognition pushed him straight into darkness. But here, being reborn with his memories from his past life, everything shifts. This time he pours all of his energy into writing, refining his skills day by day, refusing to let his life collapse the same way it did before, and because he remembers exactly how bitterness and rejection ruined him, he avoids isolating himself and completely stays away from anything that could drag him towards Muzan. Instead of becoming a demon, Kyogai stays human, keeps writing, keeps improving, and keeps chasing the acknowledgement he always dreamed of. But now, through effort, not desperation, and in the end, he finally gets to live a peaceful life, completely free from the path that destroyed him in the original story. Okay, my friends, so now we have covered all of the demons and their backstories for you. So now let's talk about how this would change the entire Demon Slayer storyline. And believe me, this would blow your mind. But before we get to that, if you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to click the subscribe button and the like button if you want to see more crazy what-ifs. Don't you want to be cool like me? But anyway, let's continue. So, since Kokoshibo doesn't exist in this timeline, instead of the 12 Kazuki, there would only be 11. Eventually, we reach the day Muzan tracks down the Kamado family, and just like in the original timeline, he massacres everyone. But this time, he doesn't just leave, because thanks to Hentengu's memories from his past life, Muzan is able to see that Nezuko conquers the sun in the future. And because of this, he forces her to regain consciousness and orders her to consume her dead family members, instantly giving her a massive boost in power. After that, he takes her away from the mountains and tests her resistance to sunlight, believing she might adapt and build immunity. But to his surprise, she doesn't, since she isn't strong enough yet. Still, he recognizes her potential and keeps her close, knowing she's likely the key to conquering the sun later on. Meanwhile, everything goes the same for Tanjiro as the original, with him returning home to the horrific sight of his slaughtered family and the suffocating stench of blood, only to realize Nezuko's body is missing, which sends him searching the entire mountain until Giyu finds him and convinces him to join the Demon Slayer Corps to find his sister. While Tanjiro begins that journey, Nezuko, now consuming human flesh, grows exponentially stronger, and considering how powerful she already was in the original timeline without eating a single human, it's safe to say she rises insanely fast, earning that title of Lower Moon 5. Her blood demon art evolves evolves like crazy, her flames capable of harming demons and humans while also boosting the power of any demon she uses them on. And her size manipulation becomes flawless, letting her grow as massive as a colossal titan or shrink to a child at will. Tanjiro continues his mission alone, defeating the hand demon, facing the swamp demons, and getting stronger, but every fight hits harder without Nezuko by his side. Everything would play out just like the original, except since Kyogai won't be present in this timeline, the entire Suzumi Mansion arc never happens. Fast forward to the Mount Natagumo arc, where both Tanjiro and Zenitsu meet for the first time and begin their friendship. But what about Inosuke? Well, he won't be present in this timeline either. You see, in the manga, it was revealed that both Inosuke and his mom were taken to Dama's cult because of her abusive husband. She would spend her time there, and even Dama liked her company and had no intention of killing her until she caught him devouring his followers. Then she fled. Thanks to Dama being reborn with his memories, he would be much more cautious. However, Inosuke's mom would still find out, and just like the original, she would flee. But this time, just as she is about to throw Inosuke off the bridge, Dama catches up, kills her, devours her, and then takes Inosuke in as a baby, raising him in his cult and eventually turning him into a demon. Yes, you heard that right. Inosuke becomes a demon, and as a demon, he would be insanely strong. With Inosuke gone from the story, both Tanjiro and Zenitsu would have a hard time against Rui because not only does Muzan give Rui a massive dose of his blood, making him way stronger than before, Tanjiro doesn't have Nezuko to help him. The battle would be fierce, but without Nezuko, Tanjiro would be killed by Rui. Giyu would eventually arrive and end Ryu, but it would be too late. Zenitsu would survive his encounter with one of Ryu's family members just like the original, but he would suffer major injuries. With Tanjiro out of the picture, everything changes drastically. Moving into the Mugen training arc, both Zenitsu and Rengoku would be sent onto the mission. However, without Nezuko and Tanjiro present, it would be difficult for them to resist Enmu's blood demon art on time, letting Enmu consume a large number of innocent civilians before they eventually break free and defeat him. Just as they are able to celebrate, they're ambushed by Akaza. Akaza, just like the original, asks Rengoku to become a demon, but he refuses, leaving Akaza no choice but to go all out. Considering Akaza is far stronger in this timeline, it wouldn't take long for him to kill Rengoku. He then turns him into a donut and bolts into the woods. Rengoku's death spreads like wildfire, shocking the Hashiras. Then the entertainment district proceeds just like the original, except Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Nezuko aren't present, which means only Zenitsu, Tengen, and his wives are sent to the district. Thanks to Gitaro and Daki's past memories, they are much more coordinated and take full advantage of every opening. Tengen puts up a fight, but Gitaro's poison is too much, and without Nezuko to burn the poison or Tanjiro's son breathing, Tengen, Zenitsu, and all of his wives die. The news reaches the Demon Slayer Corps as not one but several warriors are dead, putting everyone on edge. Muzan doesn't give them time to recover. Not long after, the Swordsmith village arc begins. Muzan sends Hentengu, Gyoko, and Nezuko, hoping she finally conquers the sun like the original timeline. Now with Tanjiro dead, you'd think the Slayers wouldn't stand a chance, but you'd be wrong again. Thanks to Kokoshibo never leaving his family as a human and passing his moon-breathing technique down his lineage, the Demon Slayers gain a huge advantage. It was revealed that both Muichiro and his brother Yuichiro were descendants of Kokoshibo, meaning they would end up becoming Demon Slayers as a highly valuable bloodline. Yuichiro would still die like the original, but Muichiro would inherit Kokoshibo's moon-breathing and Hanafuda earrings, evolving his swordsmanship massively. The arc kicks off like the original with Muichiro taking on Gyoko. Gyoko sees the earrings and gets hit with PTSD, but he charges anyway and Muichiro ends him with ease. He then supports Genya and Mitsuri against Hentengu and Nezuko. The battle is fierce, but they manage to hold on until sunrise. Both Hentengu and Nezuko are exposed to sunlight. Hentengu turns to ash, but to everyone's shock, Nezuko gains immunity to the sun at the very last second. Just as she tries to escape, Muichiro and Mitsuri capture her and take her to the Demon Slayer HQ. Muzan is furious. And then just like that, the Infinity Castle arc begins, as Muzan launches a full assault to retrieve Nezuko and finally consume her. Muzan doesn't fall for Kaguya's explosion trap this time and sends a demon ahead to trigger the explosion early. Tamio's anti-Muzan drug plan never happens because Muzan anticipates it. Everything else proceeds until the Slayers are pulled into the Infinity Castle. Here, the story changes drastically. Since Tanjiro isn't present, Akaza faces Giyu alone. The battle is intense, but without Tanjiro and without the Demon Slayer mark, Giyu is killed. The same happens to Shinobu. Instead of fighting only Dama, she also faces demon Inosuke. Dama never consumes her here, so her poison never affects him. Instead, he kills her outright. Kanai then arrives, but she's dealt with by demon Inosuke, who kills her as well. Since Kokoshibo doesn't exist in this timeline, the group that fought him, Tsunemi, Genya, Gayomi, and Muichiro, were all redirected to help Shinobu fight Dama. But Dama isn't alone either. Since he brings demon Inosuke along, the battle is brutal, and because the Slayers don't awaken their marks, one by one they fall. Mitsuri and Obanai suffer the same fate. With the Demon Slayers completely wiped out, Muzan locates Nezuko, consumes her, and finally conquers the sun. Together with his demon moons, they wipe out the last surviving Slayers and take over Japan. And as years pass with no one left to stop them, they slowly conquer the entire world, making demons the superior race and driving humanity into extinction. Well, folks, that's the end of the video, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit subscribe and bell and like and the super duper button. You know how this works, you're smart. But also, feel free to check out these videos where I find out what would happen if other anime characters were reborn with their memories. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye!